the time, the situation, the challenges require that we have a collaborative effort. Maybe something is designed or in a developed world, and then the developing countries are asked to implement that, in their country. So it's important, and I think the process which has been adopted through this the Pamir Dunya network. Obviously, my colleague from ICIMOD will share with you more details, but I think that the approach which has been adopted makes sense. And let me, on the basis of our experience, share a couple of examples. The first one is, whenever I visit North Pakistan and I witness that a lot of fruit is being wasted because there is no proper food processing units there. When I see that there's a trend that, we need to bring so much area under potato, if Punjab or Sindh can have such a good agriculture, why can't we have such agriculture in North Pakistan, in Gilgit-Baltistan, or in other valleys? We need to learn lessons. The expertise must not be, replicated there. We need to build upon the good practices, the better indigenous knowledge, and learning from other similar regional countries, assets or for livelihoods. So please, let's keep that in. A little portion of the community is happy, good reports, good presentations, and that's it. Local communities, and that it's critically important, if we have to make such interventions sustainable, that we have a business case. The development under this China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and using the resources in an unsustainable manner. I think the impact on the culture. I hope that like the next few hours today, and then Gilgit, I think we come up with all the events are productive. Then we have firm commitments. We are creative. We are innovative. We are thinking out of the box and coming up, strategy.
Thank you so much, Mr. Haman. Now I would like to invite Mr. David.
Respected Secretary Dr. Papalzai, and also it's a beautiful country, and I very much look forward to visiting the mountains in a few days and being with the mountain. I feel very much happy to be here. What I'd like to do is relating that to our Pamir Dunya network today. Told me just a few minutes ago, he said, what I like about ICIMOD, it brings mountain people together, right? So it's really a meeting place, what we see here, even today in this conference room. So that I felt somehow good about that. But our mission is with mountain people to do so. So what it's telling us is that we really need to get the issues of the mountains on the country agenda, on the regional agenda, and the global agenda. Now, so that's part number one of the stories. Mountains, a fantastic place, right? We all know that in the room. But number two, mountains and mountain people are facing unprecedented challenges, right? Unprecedented threats as we're moving forward. The assessment report told us that the rates of poverty are higher in mountain people than in plains in this region. And I'm talking, the region that ICIMOD serves, by the way, is Pakistan, Afghanistan, India, China, Nepal, Bhutan, Myanmar, and Bangladesh, the countries that share the mountains. By the way, Tajikistan, I'm sorry, but we love to have an alliance with you on these mountain issues, because I'm sure you face the same threats. More, I'd say, unhealthy food and forgetting about the nutritious mountain products, right? So we also recognize that in agriculture, mountains are much that in university curricula. We see high rates of out-migration from mountains and into cities and countries beyond. And somehow, in a way, people say, well, could be an adaptation strategy, but somehow it's also not right that we're losing the people who are protecting our precious mountain environments as well. So we have this situation that's not that great right now in mountain areas. Then on top of that, we have climate change, right? And what the assessment tells us is that mountains are highly vulnerable to climate change. We hear a lot in the global community about small islands, of course, going underwater, or the Arctic. But what we hear less about is that mountains are extremely vulnerable to climate change. So we have information that says that temperatures rise faster in mountain areas, right? So it gets hotter faster in mountains than it does in the plains. So if we had the Paris Agreement supply coming from the mountains, so I think the work you're doing in Bamidunya, right, impacts the Sindh, right, the people way, way downstream. So I think we have to be working on that upstream-downstream relations. And at ICIMOD, we also work here on, we have an Upper Indus Basin network. And I think the work of the two, Bamidunya and Upper Indus Basin network, should come together to benefit all the stakeholders on the Indus River Basin. Now, in these landscapes, the other big issue that we face is, number one is conservation, right? Of biodiversity, of ecosystem services. The second big issue is people, the livelihoods, right? How do we have sustainable development in mountains? Now, a lot of times I hear the phrase, it's conservation versus development. And it just makes me absolutely cringe to hear those words, because there's no way we can have development without conservation. So the narrative has to be conservation and development happening simultaneously in these regions. And that's what the landscape management programs are very much about, simultaneously addressing conservation and the needs of people. I think what I understand is so important here is to value the services for people that these ecosystems provide. And I think one big activity that I understand you're doing is this ecosystem service assessment, which really is so important to show how ecosystems do serve people in the region as well as people downstream. The second activity is very much around biodiversity and conservation of biodiversity. But I think what we need to do is make sure that this is very much connected to people, to culture, to livelihoods. And I know you're doing that. And just a few examples of critical issues that come up right across the mountains. Number one is tourism, right? So, right, and this is not just in Pakistan, but what we sense is people love the mountains, right, for tourism, love to go to mountains. And it seems like when the doors open for tourism, you almost get a flood, right? So you get more than you wished for, right? So it's great. I think it's a great opportunity beyond agriculture for local economies. But we have to very much take care about culture and about environment as well. So it kind of almost happens all over that we see a lot of pollution coming in with the money as well. So I think one big area of concern is how do we address sustainable tourism in the region? And I'm almost sure that's come up in your discussions as well. A second that fits very much this environmental concern is organic agriculture and with food security. So we see that ICIMOD has a lot of experience in organic agriculture from, say, Bhutan or Sikkim, and this region, HKPL, that we can bring together and figure out how to do that better in mountain areas to address conservation and development. And I think a big issue is kind of addressing infrastructure development in mountains and doing that in a sustainable way, which is part of your remit here today. So let me just end by saying that at ICIMOD, we're very much committed to HKPL landscape, to Bamidunya. We're very much committed to working with you. We appreciate the work with WWF. You've been a fantastic partner with us in the work with the government of Pakistan and the Ministry of Environment and Food Security. So thank you all very much for working together and cooperating as a team. Thank you all.
ICIMOD member of Board of Governors, Dr. David ICIMOD, Mr. Sozab Abbas, Director General, participants from this wonderful landscape, Bami Dunia. And the participants include from Afghanistan, China, Pakistan, and Tajikistan. We have today gathered here together with Ministry of Food Security and Research and WWF-Pakistan to discuss and deliberate on some of the key framework on the landscape management in this amazing landscape. Obviously, I think when you talk about landscape conservation, transboundary landscape, ICIMOD has been working across the Hindu Kush Himalayan region, and particularly, as David has pointed out, in terms of twofold or the twin objective to balance conservation and development aspects. So not only that we face critical issues in terms of mountain ecosystem and to ensure the ecological integrity to provide goods and services, not only to our mountain communities, but also the downstream communities, people living in a downstream part of the area. But again, while looking at from both conservation and the development angle, one of the key aspects has been how we really provide the benefits to our mountain communities. Often they are the marginalized or the ignored community, but how do we really focus our program for the benefit of these mountain people and communities? Having said this, many of our program focuses on protection of ecosystem, and also with the kind of challenges that we face with the climate change plus other changes, how do we really enhance the resilience of mountain people and also the ecosystem as such? Again, if you look at from a lot of this landscape program from ICIMOD, I think there are two very essential components that we focus on. One is on the knowledge, bringing science, innovation, and technology to manage this ecosystem. Second, I think if you look at all this transboundary landscape, these are in a regional constellation. These are not confined to one particular country as such, but these are often transcendents to many countries. And this example, Bami Dunia, is one very good example of a transboundary landscape in the western part of the Hindu Kush Himalayan region. That said, I think today we have gathered, and I also understand that there had been a very rich discussion and deliberation over the last 2 days, and this policy conference has many fold objectives. I also understand that there are 6 amazing protected areas in this landscape, almost serving 350 million people downstream. That's a large number. And also it is known to be a highly fragile alpine ecosystem. And I think we are working together, bringing all these participants from these member countries, and also bringing best practices and learning in a way how we can really manage this complex landscape. That said, I think some of the key objectives of today's policy conference is, obviously one is on science policy interface, bringing good science, good kind of quality science in terms of enhancing our understanding about some of the complexities of this landscape. David talked about many issues within that landscape. So to unfold some of the mysteries of these different intricacies and interrelationship, how do we really enhance science, not only have a good quality science, but good quality science feeding into a policy, so science policy interface, and also developing that sort of a knowledge framework and so forth. Second objective, I would say, is promoting research and innovation. For example, there are 6 protected area management, and there could be, various kinds of practices based on different protected area regime in different countries. So how do we really bring the best out of protected area management or the ecosystem evaluation, so to enhance research and innovation on these frontiers and so forth? I would also tend to see the third objective more on also data standardization, exchange, and having a standardized protocol so that there are data exchange could be taking place across the boundaries. For example, socio-ecological monitoring, the kind of a certain framework, where data can be seamlessly integrated, analyzed, and provided to decision making and so forth. The other objective is, of course, I think the emphasis on the not only conservation, also equally or more so to the people, promoting livelihood enhancement opportunities. And there could be varieties of intervention that can take place there. For example, ecotourism, I understand, is one of the key prospect area, livelihood, ecotourism, organic agriculture, also cross-border trade, and other could be various means of, promoting the livelihood enhancement opportunities of the local people. Last but not least, I think the objective is a network and also the regional platform to be able to share and exchange ideas, to be able to learn from each other. I think Bame Dunia, I think Roof of the World, I think the name is fascinating. And also the key objective is also how do we really keep this network intact and also more sustainable in terms of governance, in terms of operational, and also the sustainability point of view. I think there are mouthful in terms of different objectives of this policy conference, but what I also understood with discussion with colleagues earlier, there had been a lot of rich discourse and deliberation, and I'm sure, I think, it will provide the kind of a framework and impetus and enough goodies to keep this network, really vibrant and also sustainable in future. With this, I would like to stop here. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
To talk about some issues related to today's agenda. Expert in this field, but I have been connected with resource management is that what are the ecosystem services and the challenges available to the people of Pakistan. As we all know that Pakistan has been bestowed by God, the nature, a complexity of different terrains, right from the high mountains of Himalaya, Hindu Kush and Karakoram, to the vast plains carved by the waters of Indus and its 5 tributaries, constituting the upper Indus plain, which right now we all are sitting here, and the lower part, which is Sindh, the province of Sindh. The other 2 provinces, KP and Baltistan, are also the part of this integrated mass of land, but somehow we can separate it from the system which is called the Western Mountain System. So the upper, which is the part of the high mountain zone, Himalaya, Karakoram, and the lower western part, which is the Baltistan Plateau. Thar, which is also the part of India and Pakistan, also stretches through the Indus in Sindh province called Thar. So this is a dry land area. One, high mountain areas, the second component, plain areas, the third component, dry land, deserts. And the fourth one is wetland area, which is constituted by Indus Delta itself. and some of the very unknown rivers of Pakistan, like Dasht River in Balochistan and Thal River in Balochistan. These are the rivers which also make some wetland areas in Balochistan. And the most important, this very area where we are now is called Plateau, which is Potohar Plateau, and it is a rangeland area. So these are the components which nature has given to us. Now, these areas have a specific sets of services required for its development in order to bring a balance between ecology and human habitat. These two components, if the policymakers, scientists, academics all sit together and we could find out the ways and means how to create a balance between the human habitat and the natural ecosystem, it would be a great service. And I think the mandate and the work being done by ICIMOD is marvelous. And that is the organization which is actually creating a knowledge depository for the residents of this entire region stretched from Myanmar to Afghanistan. Almost 8 countries, sir, equal to the size of SAARC countries, but plus China, which is another big country. So we can well understand the geographic expanse of this entire region and the need to have a understanding about the nature and the set of possibilities available to our policymakers and resource planners, how to create a balance between the needs of human requirements and the possibilities provided by nature. So I think today's meeting and this agenda is essentially very important for the country and also for the organization, and I'm grateful the government of Pakistan and our colleagues from different ministries like Ministry of Food, Dr. Hashim Popozai, his personal presence at this event is very essential, and I hope through today's deliberations we would be able to find out better means and better strategies and better planning to make a concrete balance between the two components of nature. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Now I would like to invite Mr. Hashim Popolzai, Secretary, National Food Security and Research, Government of Pakistan, for his remarks. Sir, if you can please take the podium.
Mr. David Bolden, ICIMOD team, which has come all across from Nepal to here, Pakistan, our partners from different international and national organizations, friends from different ministries and regions and provinces, Assalamu alaikum. I'm pleased to extend my warm welcome to you all in this conference. My ministry, National Food Security and Research, is happy to join ICIMOD and WWF in organizing this policy conference on integrated landscape management along the Silk Road, managing the health of mountain ecosystems. To me, the conference theme is very important and perhaps less explored. This policy dialogue has intricate relationship of conservation with development. I hope today's discussion will focus on landscape and transboundary approach to protect and promote biodiversity, ecosystem services, and strengthening regional cooperation. Managing health of mountain ecosystems is critically important for Pakistan due to many reasons. The most important reason is to increase socio-economic and ecological resilience, particularly addressing the following: increasing climate change and its effects, to cope with challenges of food and nutritional security, to meet water scarcity and ecosystem services needs, integrating ecosystem science and policies with emerging infrastructure like China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and related energy projects, understanding complex mountain systems and leveraging its benefits, sustainable use of natural resources with sustainable development goals. In fact, Pakistan is pleased to have devoted attention to ecosystem health through Green Pakistan initiative, one of the most important considerations of the Prime Minister of Pakistan. Currently, ecotourism, food security and nutrition, and biodiversity management are emerging priorities of national and all provincial governments. Ladies and gentlemen, biodiversity conservation through regional connections calls for landscape approach. It is a tested approach to help us better plan and manage biodiversity and natural resources at regional level. National parks, including Khunjarab, Kurumbar, and Borgal in Pakistan, while adjoining Taxkorgan Natural Reserve in China, Zirkal in Tajikistan, and Wakhan in Afghanistan, are called Hindu Kush Karakoram Pamir landscape, and they become good testimony not only of proximity but an excellent example of landscape approach. It looks a promising example to strengthen bonds for the protection and promotion of biodiversity and conservation with development in collaboration with China, Afghanistan, and Tajikistan through Bam-e-Dunia learning network being facilitated by ICIMOD, already discussed by my previous speakers. I believe joint research plans on biodiversity, eco-health, and landscape approach at regional level will be rewarding for the people and the government to find sustainable solutions for conservation and development. Meanwhile, adaptation of green technologies and resilient solutions for CPEC are inevitable. So therefore, it is an ideal good time to strengthen landscape bonds, resources, and expertise to do more research and align policies to promote and maintain mountain eco-health system health. I wish the participants of today's workshop best of luck and lots of success so that you can come up with good solutions for the country in future. Today we had a productive discussion in the policy dialogues with various stakeholders, and I hope that this will be carried forward today with good recommendations for the policymakers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your valuable remarks. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a tea break, which will be followed by a group photo. So you are all requested to be back on your seats by 3:30. 2:30. No, 3:30. Yeah, thank you.
Mutual understanding, mutual cooperation, peaceful situation are very vital. From the Pakistan's point of view, from our perspective, stability in South Asia are vital for the development of this region. From our political elite and the academia and the policymakers together sit down and see what avenues they can find for mutual cooperation. Because if we would not cooperate, forgive us for our faults and for our misdeeds. So I would say the exploration of new cooperation in the area of environment and ecology are very essential for the development of this.
Very important area, I think, that is interface between policy and carried out to inform policy And in my view, that's a very